On New Year's Eve, my son-in-law yelled, "Where the hell have you been, old man? Why is the table still not set?" I stayed silent. When I came back, two people were standing right behind me. The moment he saw them, his face went pale. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up 6 hours. The house smelled like roasted meat and expensive wine. Crystal chandeliers threw warm light across the marble floors. My daughter Emily had insisted on hosting this year's celebration at our place. Well, technically still my place, though the way things were going, that might not last much longer. I stood in the kitchen, arranging plates on the counter. 63 years old, hands steady, despite the arthritis creeping into my knuckles. My wife Linda watched me from the doorway, her expression unreadable. After 38 years of marriage, I could usually tell what she was thinking. Tonight, though, she wore that mask she puts on when company's coming. "Daniel's already drinking," she said quietly. Daniel, my son-in-law, married to Emily for 3 years now. He worked in commercial real estate, or so he claimed. Mostly I saw him working on my daughter's confidence, chipping away at it piece by piece. "Let him," I said. "Robert, that's my name. Robert Hutchins. I used to run a manufacturing plant before I retired. 32 years of managing people, handling crises, making decisions that affected hundreds of employees. Now I was the old man who couldn't set a table fast enough. I heard voices from the living room. Emily's laugh, too high-pitched. Daniel's booming voice telling some story. Our other guests had started arriving. Linda's sister Margaret and her husband. A couple from Daniel's office. Some people I didn't recognize. "I'll be out in a minute," I told Linda. She hesitated, then nodded and left. I finished arranging the silverware, taking my time. The kitchen was quiet, peaceful. I knew as soon as I walked into that living room, Daniel would find something to criticize. The temperature, the music, the way I'd parked my car. 3 years. 3 years of watching my daughter change. She used to be fierce, independent. Now she apologized for everything. Now she checked her phone constantly, anxious if Daniel didn't respond within minutes. Now she made excuses for his behavior. I dried my hands on a towel and headed toward the living room. The space was packed. Maybe 20 people, all dressed in cocktail attire. I'd worn slacks and a button-down shirt. Nothing fancy. Daniel stood near the fireplace in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. He had his arm around Emily, who looked beautiful in a red dress. She also looked exhausted. "There he is," Daniel called out when he saw me. "The man of the hour. Robert, come here, I want you to meet some people." I walked over. His breath already reeked of whiskey. "This is Craig and Jennifer from my office," Daniel said. "Craig just closed a $15 million deal. Craig, this is Emily's father, Robert. He used to work in manufacturing." Used to work, like I was some relic from a forgotten era. "Nice to meet you," I said, shaking Craig's hand. "Manufacturing, huh?" Craig said. "Tough business these days. Lot of that moving overseas." "Some of it," I agreed. Daniel laughed. "Robert retired early, took his pension and got out before the plant closed. Smart move, right?" The plant hadn't closed. It was still operating, still profitable. But Daniel never let facts interfere with his narrative. "If you'll excuse me," I said, "I need to check on something in the kitchen." I escaped before Daniel could rope me into more conversation. Back in the kitchen, I leaned against the counter and took a slow breath. Linda appeared a moment later. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine. He's already started." I noticed. She moved closer, her voice dropping. "We could leave. Go to Margaret's." "It's our house, Linda." "I know, I just thought—" "We're staying." She studied my face, then nodded. We'd been having versions of this conversation for months. Ever since Daniel had started making comments about the house being too big for just the two of us. Ever since Emily had mentioned that Daniel had some ideas about the property. Ever since I'd started noticing the way they looked at each other when they thought I wasn't watching. I went back out to the living room. The party was getting louder. Someone had turned up the music, people clustered in small groups, laughing, drinking. I made my way through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries, playing the gracious host. Margaret cornered me near the bookshelf. "Robert, you look tired." "Long day." "Emily seems happy." I glanced across the room. Emily was talking to Jennifer, her smile bright but strained. Daniel stood a few feet away, his eyes fixed on his phone. "She seems busy," I said. Margaret lowered her voice. "Is everything okay? Between you and Daniel?" "Why wouldn't it be?" "I've noticed some tension. At Thanksgiving, he was—" "Margaret, it's fine. Really." She didn't look convinced, but she let it drop. I excused myself and headed toward the hallway, needing a moment away from the noise. As I passed the study, I heard voices, low, urgent. I paused. "Can't keep putting this off." That was Daniel. "I know, but tonight's not the time." "Emily." She sounded stressed. "When is the time? We've been talking about this for months. He needs to sign those papers." "Papers? What papers?" "My father's not going to just— Your father's living in the past. This house, that old workshop building out back, all of it. We could do so much with this property. The location alone is worth a fortune." "Daniel, please. Can we not do this right now?" "Fine. But we're talking about this tomorrow. I'm done waiting." I heard footsteps approaching the door. I moved quickly, stepping into the bathroom across the hall. Through the crack in the door, I watched Daniel emerge from the study, straightening his tie. Emily followed a moment later, her face flushed. They returned to the party. I stayed in the bathroom, my mind racing. Papers, property, the workshop building. That building had been my father's. He'd run a small woodworking business there for 40 years. When he died, he left it to me. I'd converted it into a workshop for my own projects, furniture, repairs, things that kept my hands busy in retirement. It wasn't worth much, maybe $60,000 as a separate structure. But the land it sat on, combined with the main house, that was different. That was prime real estate in a developing area. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I came out of the bathroom and headed toward the back of the house. The garage connected to a mudroom that connected to my workshop. I needed to think, and I couldn't think, with Daniel's voice booming through the house. The garage was cold and dark. I flipped on the light and stood there looking at my workbench. Tools hung in neat rows on the pegboard. Half-finished projects sat on shelves. This was my space. Mine. I noticed Emily's car parked inside. She usually left it in the driveway, but tonight she'd pulled it into the garage, probably because of the cold. I was about to leave when I saw something on the passenger seat. A folder. Manila, stuffed with papers. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something made me walk over and pick it up. Inside were documents, legal documents, property transfer forms. My name appeared multiple times, along with Emily's and Daniel's. I flipped through the pages, my hands starting to shake. They wanted me to sign over the workshop building and the land it sat on, not sell it, transfer it, gift it. The paperwork was already filled out, just waiting for my signature. But that wasn't all. There were business proposals, plans to demolish the workshop and develop the land, architectural drawings showing a small commercial complex, financial projections. And right there, in the executive summary, it said the project was already being pitched to investors, using my name, using my reputation from my years at the manufacturing plant. They were telling investors that I was on board, that this was a family venture, that my experience and connections made this a safe bet. I heard footsteps. I shoved the papers back in the folder and set it down. The mudroom door opened. Daniel stepped through. "Robert, there you are. Linda's been looking for you. Guests are wondering where the host went." He walked closer, his eyes dropping to the folder on the seat. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance, maybe, or calculation. "Just came out to grab something from the car," I said. "Right. Well, come on. We need to get dinner started." I followed him back into the house. My mind was spinning. They'd been planning this for months, using my name without my knowledge, treating my property like it was already theirs. And Emily, my daughter, was part of it. The party continued. Dinner was served. I sat at the head of the table and carved the roast, while Daniel held court at the other end, telling stories about his successful deals. Emily sat between us, barely eating. Linda caught my eye several times. She knew something was wrong. After 38 years, she could read me like a map. After dinner, people moved back to the living room. I helped clear plates, grateful for something to do with my hands. In the kitchen, I found Linda loading the dishwasher. "What happened?" she asked quietly. "What do you mean?" "Robert, don't. I can see it on your face." I glanced toward the doorway, making sure we were alone. Then I told her about the conversation I'd overheard, about the folder in Emily's car, about the property transfer and the business plans. Linda's face went pale. "They wouldn't. The papers are right there. Go look if you don't believe me." "I believe you. Emily wouldn't do this to us. She's doing it right now." Linda set down the plate she was holding. Her hands were shaking. "What are we going to do?" "I don't know yet. We have to confront them." "Not here, not with all these people." "Then when?" Before I could answer, Daniel's voice boomed from the living room. "Robert, get out here. We're making a toast." I looked at Linda. She nodded. We went back out together. Everyone had gathered in the living room with fresh drinks. Daniel stood by the fireplace, glass raised. When he saw me, he grinned. "There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make a toast to our generous hosts, Robert and Linda. This beautiful home, this wonderful evening, all of it wouldn't be possible without them." People raised their glasses. I picked up a glass of wine from the side table. "And I especially want to thank Robert," Daniel continued, "because next year, this family is going to start an exciting new venture together. Right, Robert?" All eyes turned to me. Emily was staring at the floor. Linda's hand found mine. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said evenly. Daniel's smile didn't waver. "Oh, don't be modest. Emily told me you've been thinking about that old workshop building, about what we could do with it. Great things are coming, everyone. Great things." He raised his glass higher. "To family. To family," everyone echoed. I didn't drink. I just stood there, glass in hand, watching my son-in-law lie to a room full of people about plans I'd never agreed to, using my property, my name, my reputation. Emily finally looked up. Our eyes met. For just a second, I saw guilt there. Then she looked away. The party wound down around 11. People started leaving, bundling into coats, calling out goodbyes. Daniel had gotten progressively drunker, his voice louder, his movements more aggressive. He spent the last hour cornering Craig by the bar, pitching the workshop development like it was a done deal. By 11:30, everyone was gone, except Daniel and Emily. They were staying overnight. Emily had been drinking, and Daniel was in no condition to drive. I was in the kitchen again, this time actually cleaning up. Linda was with me. We worked in silence, both of us processing what we'd learned tonight. Daniel stumbled in, Emily trailing behind him. "Hell of a party, Robert. Hell of a party." He leaned against the counter, nearly knocking over a stack of plates. "Listen, tomorrow we need to talk. About the workshop, about the property. There are papers that need signing." "Daniel," Emily started. "No, Em. We've waited long enough. Your dad's a reasonable man. He understands opportunity when he sees it." "I think we should discuss this when you're sober," I said carefully. Daniel's expression changed. The jovial drunk disappeared, replaced by something colder. I'm sober enough. And I'm tired of dancing around this. That workshop is sitting there rotting. The land is wasted. We have investors ready to move. All we need is your signature. My signature on papers I never agreed to. What? I saw the folder, Daniel, in Emily's car. Emily's face went white. Daniel's jaw tightened. You went through my things? Emily said. I saw a folder on the seat. I looked, and I found business proposals using my name, my reputation, telling investors I'm involved in a project I knew nothing about. Dad, I can explain. You've been lying to people, both of you, telling them this is a family venture when you never even asked me. Daniel pushed off the counter. Asked you? You're living in a house that's too big for you, holding on to property you're not using, refusing to see the potential. We're trying to do something here, something big, and you're standing in the way. It's my property. It's your daughter's future. Daniel's voice rose. Or doesn't that matter to you? You'd rather keep your little woodworking hobby than help your own kid? That's enough, Linda said sharply. Daniel ignored her. He stepped closer to me, his breath hot and whiskey-soaked. You know what your problem is, Robert? You're stuck in the past. You think you're still running that plant, still making decisions that matter, but you're not. You're just an old man with more space than he needs and more stubbornness than sense. The kitchen went silent. I looked at Emily. Is this what you think? She didn't answer. Her eyes were full of tears, but she didn't answer. We're talking about this tomorrow, Daniel said. And you're going to sign those papers, because if you don't, I will make your life miserable. You understand me? Daniel! Emily grabbed his arm. Stop it! You're drunk. He shook her off. I'm not drunk. I'm done pretending. Your dad either gets on board or he gets out of the way. He turned and walked out. Emily looked at me one more time, her face crumpling. Then she followed him. Linda and I stood in the kitchen. The house was quiet now, except for the hum of the refrigerator. What are we going to do? She asked again. This time, I had an answer forming. I'm going to find out exactly what they've been telling people, who they've been talking to, what promises they've made. And then I'm going to make sure they regret it. Linda studied my face. Robert, they used my name, Linda. Emily's let him turn her into someone I don't recognize. I'm not going to stand here and let it happen. What are you going to do? I looked toward the doorway where they'd disappeared. Whatever it takes. Linda was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Okay. Tell me what you need. We spent the next hour looking through the folder more carefully. Emily and Daniel had gone upstairs to the guest room. We could hear them arguing through the ceiling, their voices muffled but angry. The documents revealed more than I'd first realized. They'd been working on this project for at least 6 months. They had preliminary agreements with contractors. They had investor meetings scheduled. They'd even secured a preliminary loan, somehow using my property as collateral without my signature. That last part made me stop. How is this possible? Linda scanned the document. It's not a formal loan. It's a commitment from investors based on projected value. But look here, they told the investors you'd already agreed to transfer the property. That's fraud. I'm not sure. They might claim it was a misunderstanding, that they thought you'd agreed verbally. It's your daughter, Robert. It would be hard to prove intent. I flipped through more pages, found correspondence between Daniel and various business associates, found emails where he referred to me as the old man and a non-issue, found texts where Emily apologized for me being difficult, my own daughter. There was a sound from upstairs, a door slamming, footsteps stomping down the hall. Linda quickly gathered the papers and shoved them back in the folder. We put it in a drawer just as Emily appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes were red from crying. Her makeup was smeared. I need to talk to you, she said to me. Okay? Alone. Linda looked at me. I nodded. She left, squeezing Emily's shoulder as she passed. Emily didn't react. When we were alone, Emily sat down at the kitchen table. I stayed standing. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what part?" "For all of it. For not talking to you first. For letting Daniel handle everything. For—" Her voice broke. "For not standing up for you tonight." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd say no. So you decided to lie instead." "We weren't lying. We were trying to make it work first, to show you that it was a good opportunity before asking you to commit. You used my name without my permission. Daniel said it was normal, that in business, you sometimes have to present things optimistically." "Optimistically? Emily, you told investors I'd agreed to transfer my property when I hadn't. That's not optimism. That's fraud." She flinched. "Don't say that. What else would you call it?" "It's not like that. Daniel has connections. He knows how these things work. The investors needed to know that the property owner was on board. We were going to talk to you once everything was in place." "Once I didn't have a choice, you mean?" Emily stood up. "You never would have said yes anyway. You would have found some reason to say no because you don't like Daniel. You've never liked him." "This isn't about Daniel." "Yes, it is. Everything is about Daniel with you. The way you look at him, the way you talk to him. You think he's not good enough for me. I think he's trying to steal my property. He's trying to build something. For us. For our future. We want to start a family, Dad. We need money for that. Real money. Not pension checks and savings accounts. This development could make us financially secure. By taking what's mine. It's just sitting there. You barely use that workshop. Once a week, maybe. The rest of the time, it's empty. We could turn it into something that actually generates income. It's not about the money. Then what is it about? It's about being treated with respect. It's about being asked instead of manipulated. It's about my daughter looking me in the eye instead of sneaking around behind my back. Emily's face hardened. You don't understand. You've never understood. This is my life, Dad. Mine and Daniel's. We're not asking for permission anymore. We're telling you. That property is our future, and you need to decide if you're going to be part of that future or not. She turned and left before I could respond. I stood in the kitchen alone. The house creaked around me. Outside, snow had started falling, dusting the windows with white. My phone buzzed. A text message from a number I didn't recognize. Is he actually going to sign the papers? I stared at the message. Sent to me by accident? Or meant for Emily? I checked the number. Colorado area code. I didn't know anyone in Colorado. Before I could figure out what to do, another text came through. Never mind. Wrong number. Sorry. But it wasn't a wrong number. Someone was asking about me. Someone who knew about the papers. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to my own email. Then I deleted the messages from my phone. If they were monitoring communications somehow, I didn't want them to know I'd noticed. I went upstairs. Linda was in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed. How'd it go? She asked. She chose him. Linda closed her eyes. She's confused. He's manipulating her. Maybe, but she still made her choice. I showed her the text messages. Linda's expression darkened. Who is this? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Robert, maybe we should call a lawyer. This is getting complicated. Not yet. I need more information first. I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. And then? I thought about Daniel's threat, about Emily's ultimatum, about the months of lies and manipulation. And then I fight back. We got ready for bed in silence. I could hear Daniel and Emily through the walls, their voices low and tense. Eventually, the house went quiet. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Linda's breathing eventually slowed as she fell asleep. I couldn't. My mind was racing through everything I'd learned, everything that had been said. Around 2 a.m, I heard a door open. Footsteps in the hallway. I got up quietly and looked out. Emily was creeping downstairs, her phone glowing in her hand. I waited a moment, then followed. She went to the front door and slipped outside. Through the window, I watched her walk to a car parked at the curb, a sedan I didn't recognize. The passenger door opened and she got in. I moved to a better angle. The car's interior light showed Emily talking to someone, a man. I couldn't see his face clearly, but he was young, maybe 30. He handed her something, papers looked like. She took them and they talked for another minute. Then she got out and hurried back inside. I made it back upstairs before she came in. Lay in bed pretending to be asleep when I heard her footsteps pass our door. Who was that? What papers were they exchanging at 2 a.m? The next morning, I woke early. New Year's Day. The house was quiet. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. Time to do some research. I started with the Colorado number from last night. Ran it through a reverse lookup service. It came back registered to a company called Summit Development Group. I searched for them online, found a basic website listing commercial real estate services. No names, no detailed information. I dug deeper, checked business filings, found that Summit Development Group was registered 18 months ago. The principal officer was listed as Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb. The name didn't mean anything to me. I searched for him specifically. Found a LinkedIn profile. Age 32. Previously worked for a large real estate firm in Denver, now running his own company. And in his connections list, there was Daniel. I clicked through to Daniel's profile. It showed him connected to Summit Development Group as a strategic partner. His profile had been updated recently to mention upcoming commercial development projects in the greater metro area. So Daniel was working with this Marcus Webb. They were planning this development together. But why was Webb texting about whether I'd sign the papers, unless they were all in on it together? Emily included. I heard movement upstairs. Daniel's heavy footsteps. I closed my laptop and stood up. He came down a few minutes later, looking hungover. He barely glanced at me as he headed for the coffee maker. "Morning," he muttered. "Morning." He poured coffee and leaned against the counter. "About last night." "What about it?" "I was drunk. Said some things I shouldn't have. But I meant what I said about the property. We need to discuss it." "There's nothing to discuss." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Robert, you've been lying to investors, using my name and reputation without permission, planning to develop my property without my consent. There's no discussion to be had. It's your daughter's future. It's my property." Daniel set down his coffee cup hard. "You're really going to do this? You're going to stand there and destroy Emily's chance at success because of pride?" "Pride? You think this is about pride?" "What else would it be? You can't stand that she has her own life, that she doesn't need you anymore, that she's married to someone who can actually provide for her. Get out." "What?" "Get out of my house. Now. Both of you." Daniel laughed. "You're serious?" "Completely." "Unbelievable." He shook his head. "You're going to regret this, old man. I promise you that." He went back upstairs. I heard him talking to Emily, his voice sharp. Then they were both coming down, Emily in yesterday's clothes, Daniel carrying their overnight bags. Emily's face was blotchy from crying. "Dad, please, can we just talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about. You're choosing property over your daughter. You chose your husband over honesty. We all make choices, Emily." She started to say something, then stopped. Daniel grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the door. "This isn't over," Daniel said. "Not even close." They left. I watched through the window as they got in Emily's car and drove away. Linda came downstairs in her robe. "They're gone?" "Yeah." "You kicked them out?" "I did." She walked over and put her hand on my shoulder. "What now?" I turned to her. "Now I find out everything, and then I make sure they pay for this." "How?" "I don't know yet, but I will." Linda studied my face for a long moment. "I'm with you, whatever you decide. Even if it means going after Emily? She's made her choices. She's an adult. And what they're doing is wrong. If that means she faces consequences, then she faces consequences. I pulled Linda close. We stood there in the kitchen, the morning light streaming through the windows, the house quiet around us. It was time to stop being the understanding father. Time to stop being the underestimated old man. Time to fight back. Emily's return changed everything. Suddenly, our quiet house was full of activity again. Linda mothered her, bringing meals, checking on her constantly. I gave her space but stayed close, making sure she had what she needed. The physical injuries healed over the next week. The broken nose would be fine, the doctor said. The bruising faded from purple to yellow to nothing. The concussion resolved without complications. The emotional damage would take longer. I watched Emily struggle with what had happened. She'd wake up crying. She'd stare at her phone, then remember Daniel was in jail and put it down. She'd start to say something, then stop, lost in thought. One afternoon, about 5 days after she'd come home, she found me in the workshop. I was sanding a table leg, working on a restoration project. She stood in the doorway for a while before speaking. "Can I come in?" "Of course." She walked around the workshop, looking at my tools, my projects, the photos on the wall. Photos of work I'd done over the years. Photos of her as a child, helping me build a birdhouse. "I forgot how much time we spent here," she said. "Every weekend when you were little, you'd hand me tools, ask a million questions. I wanted to be just like you. What happened?" She leaned against the workbench. "I don't know. I guess I grew up, started thinking there was something better out there, something more exciting than this." She gestured at the workshop. "Daniel was exciting," she continued. "He had big plans, big dreams. He made me feel like I could be part of something important, something that mattered." "This matters," I said quietly, touching the table I was working on. "Creating something, fixing something broken, that matters. I know that now." "What changed?" Emily was quiet for a long time. "Everything. When it all fell apart, I realized none of it was real. The excitement, the dreams, the big plans. It was all just smoke, nothing solid, nothing I could hold on to." She picked up a piece of sandpaper, ran her finger over it. "This is real. Wood, tools, work, the things you build last, the things Daniel built disappeared the second people saw the truth. I'm sorry you had to learn that way. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you." We worked together for a while in comfortable silence. I showed her how to properly sand with the grain. She remembered some of it from when she was young. We fell into an easy rhythm. "Dad," she said eventually, "what's going to happen to Daniel?" "He'll be prosecuted. Assault, harassment, stalking. Roger thinks he'll get jail time." "Good." The venom in her voice surprised me. "Emily, he deserves it. Not just for hitting me, for everything, for lying to me, manipulating me, using me, for turning me against you, for destroying my trust in everyone." "You'll trust again." "Will I? How do I know who's real and who's just performing? Daniel was performing for 3 years. I never saw it. What if I never see it? You'll learn. You'll be more careful. But you can't let one bad experience destroy your faith in people." "One bad experience? Dad, I betrayed you. I helped Daniel try to steal your property. I lied to investors. I could have faced criminal charges. That's not just a bad experience, that's a complete failure of judgment. You were manipulated. I was stupid. You were in love, or thought you were. People make mistakes when they're in love." She set down the sandpaper. "Were you ever worried you'd lose Mom? That you'd make some mistake that would destroy everything?" "Every day for the first 10 years. "Really?" "Really. Marriage is hard, Emily. Relationships are hard. You're constantly negotiating who you are, versus who we are. What you want versus what's best for both of you. I made plenty of mistakes. So did your mother, but we learned to recognize them, to talk about them, to fix them together. Daniel never wanted to fix things together. He just wanted me to agree with him. I know. How did you know? How did you see through him when I couldn't? I thought about that. Experience, maybe. I've worked with a lot of people over the years. You learn to spot the ones who are all talk, the ones who make big promises but never deliver. Daniel set off every alarm in my head from the first time I met him. Why didn't you say something? I did. You didn't want to hear it. She nodded slowly. I remember. You tried to talk to me before the wedding. I accused you of not wanting me to be happy. You accused me of being jealous that you were moving on. Was I right? Partly. I didn't want to lose my daughter. But mostly I was scared. Scared that you were making a mistake. Scared that Daniel would hurt you. And I was right to be scared. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Dad, for not listening, for choosing him, for everything. I pulled her into a hug. She cried against my shoulder while I held her. This daughter who'd betrayed me and been betrayed in turn, who'd broken my trust and had her own trust shattered. It's okay, I said. We'll get through this. How? Together. One day at a time. We stayed like that for a while. Eventually, Emily pulled away and wiped her eyes. I need to figure out what I'm going to do, she said. I can't stay here forever. Why not? Dad, I'm serious. This is your home. It always has been. Stay as long as you need. What about Mom? Does she feel the same way? Go ask her. Emily went inside. I finished sanding the table leg, then put away my tools. When I went into the house, I found Emily and Linda in the kitchen, both crying, both hugging. I guess that's a yes, I said. Linda laughed through her tears. Of course it's a yes. Emily, you're our daughter. This is your home. We had a family dinner that night, first one in months where everyone was honest, where there were no hidden agendas or unspoken resentments. We talked about Emily's plans. She needed to find a job, restart her life, eventually get her own place. But not yet. First, she needed to heal. Over the next week, things settled into a routine. Emily helped around the house. She went to therapy, Linda insisted, and Emily agreed she needed it. She started applying for jobs. Slowly, she began to rebuild. The legal situation with Daniel progressed. He was charged with assault, criminal harassment, and stalking. The prosecutor wanted to add fraud charges related to the investment scheme, but Roger advised against pursuing that since it would implicate Emily. I agreed to let it go. Daniel would face enough consequences for the assault alone. His trial was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, he remained in jail, unable to make bail. His lawyer tried to argue he wasn't a flight risk, but the prosecutor pointed to the threatening note and broken window as evidence of danger to the community. Marcus Webb called me. Mr. Hutchins, I wanted to apologize. I should have done better due diligence. I should have verified your involvement before committing resources. What's happening with Summit Development? We're focusing on other projects. We've written off our preliminary expenses as a loss. Are you suing Daniel and Emily? We're considering it. But honestly, there's probably nothing to collect. They're broke. A judgment would be meaningless. What about Emily specifically? She was manipulated. She didn't understand what was happening. Silence on the line. Then, Mr. Hutchins, I hear what you're saying. And for what it's worth, I believe you. But she signed documents. She made representations to investors. Legally, she's responsible. But you're not pursuing it. No, not worth the cost. But if other investors want to sue, I can't stop them. Thank you for letting me know. After we hung up, I told Emily about the conversation. She took it better than I expected. I deserve to be sued, she said. I did what they're accusing me of. Under Daniel's influence. I still did it. I could have said no. I could have asked questions. I could have talked to you. I chose not to. Are you okay? I will be. It's hard accepting that I was that person, that I made those choices, but I did, and I have to live with that. Her maturity surprised me. The Emily who'd left here on New Year's Day would have made excuses, blamed others. This Emily was taking responsibility. Maybe she was finally growing up. One evening, about 2 weeks after Emily came home, I was watching the news when a story caught my attention. Local businessman arrested for fraud. I turned up the volume. The reporter was standing outside a commercial building downtown. Donald Vance, owner of Vance Properties, was arrested today on multiple counts of investor fraud. Prosecutors allege Vance misrepresented property values and fabricated financial projections to attract investment in commercial developments. Several victims have come forward, including Marcus Webb of Summit Development Group, who says he lost over $200,000 in a failed project. I sat up straight. Marcus Webb was one of the victims of Donald Vance. The report continued. Vance allegedly used a network of associates to pitch fraudulent investment opportunities. One associate, Daniel Roberts, is currently awaiting trial on separate charges. Prosecutors are investigating whether Roberts and Vance worked together on multiple schemes. Emily came into the room. Did they just say Daniel's name? Yeah, apparently he was working with this Vance guy. Multiple fraud schemes. Emily sank onto the couch. So it wasn't just our project. He's been doing this for a while. Looks like it. I was just one victim of many. Emily. No, it's true. I thought I was special. Thought he loved me. But I was just a means to an end. A way to get access to your property, your reputation, your connections. That's not your fault, isn't it? I should have seen it. I moved closer to her. Daniel was good at what he did. He fooled Marcus Webb. He fooled other investors. He fooled me for a while. You're not stupid for falling for him. I feel stupid. You were in love. That makes everyone a little stupid. She almost smiled. Is that what you tell Mom? Every day. We watched the rest of the report. Turns out Donald Vance had been running fraudulent development schemes for 5 years. Daniel had been working with him for at least 2, maybe longer. They'd targeted older property owners, promising big returns on development projects that never materialized. We were marks, Emily said quietly. Classic con. Target a family, identify the weak link. Me. Exploit the relationship to gain access to the real target. You. You're not a weak link. I was. Daniel found me at a real estate seminar. That's not a coincidence, is it? He targeted me specifically because of you. I thought back to how they'd met. Emily had been working at a real estate office, learning the business. She'd gone to a seminar on commercial development. Daniel had been one of the speakers. They'd met at the cocktail hour afterward. Maybe, I admitted. Definitely. God, I was so stupid. He probably researched me beforehand, knew exactly who I was, who you were, what you owned. The whole relationship was a setup. You don't know that. Dad, he was working with a career con artist. Of course it was a setup. She stood up and paced. 3 years. I gave him 3 years of my life, and it was all fake, all a con. The marriage was real. The legal ceremony happened. But the love wasn't real. His feelings weren't real. Our future wasn't real. He was just playing a part until he could get what he wanted. I didn't know what to say. She was probably right. Looking back with this new information, the timeline made sense. Daniel targets Emily, courts her, marries her, spends a year establishing trust, then starts pushing about the property. When that doesn't work quickly enough, he gets more aggressive, creates the investment scheme, tries to force my hand. When that fails, he falls apart because there was never a backup plan. The whole thing was only ever about conning money out of me. Emily was just collateral damage. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For not protecting you better. For not seeing this sooner. For not. Dad, stop. This isn't your fault. You tried to warn me. I didn't listen. That's on me. You're my daughter. I should have. You should have what? Locked me in my room? Forbidden me from marrying him? I was an adult. I made my choices. Bad choices. But mine. She sat back down, suddenly exhausted. I just want to move on. Get past this. But it's hard when the news keeps reminding me how stupid I was. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Stupid is making the same mistake twice. Trusting is believing in people. You were trusting. And someone abused that trust. That's not your fault. Emily leaned against me. When did you get so wise? I've had a lot of practice being wrong. We sat together watching the news cycle through other stories. Eventually, Linda joined us. We told her about the Vance connection. So, Daniel was a professional con artist, Linda said. Looks like it. That actually makes me feel better. Emily and I both looked at her. Think about it, Linda continued. If Daniel was a professional, then Emily didn't fail to spot red flags. She was targeted by someone who does this for a living, someone who's good at it. That's not her fault. Huh, Emily said. I guess that's true. Of course it's true. These people are experts at manipulation. They study human psychology. They know exactly what to say and do to gain trust. You're not the first person to fall for it, and you won't be the last. But I should have. No more shoulda, woulda, coulda. You met someone. He seemed great. You fell in love. He turned out to be a con artist. That's not a reflection on you. Emily nodded slowly. Some of the tension left her shoulders. Thank you, she said to Linda. I needed to hear that. I know you did. The next day, prosecutors contacted me. They wanted to know if I'd be willing to testify about Daniel's schemes if the case went to trial. I agreed. Roger helped me prepare a statement detailing everything: the property transfer documents, the investor pitches, the use of my name and reputation. This could really hurt him, Roger said. Between the assault and the fraud, he's looking at serious prison time. Good. Robert, are you sure you want to do this? Testifying means dredging everything up again. It means Emily's role will be examined. It means public scrutiny. I'm sure. What about Emily? How does she feel about it? I'll ask her. That evening, I talked to Emily about testifying. She listened carefully, then nodded. You should do it. He needs to face consequences. Not just for hitting me, but for everything. Your involvement will come up. I know, but I'll deal with it. I'm not going to let fear of embarrassment stop you from telling the truth. Are you sure? Dad, I'm already embarrassed. Everyone knows what happened. My name was in the Business Journal article. People know I was involved in Daniel's schemes. At this point, testifying is just confirming what everyone already knows. And maybe it helps put him away. Maybe it stops him from doing this to someone else. I was proud of her in that moment. Despite everything, she was trying to do the right thing. Over the next few weeks, life started to feel almost normal. Emily got a job at a small accounting firm. Entry level, nowhere near what she'd been making before, but honest work. She moved into an apartment nearby, though she had dinner with us several times a week. Linda and I settled back into our routine: morning coffee, afternoon projects, evening television. The security cameras stayed up, and Kyle continued his patrols for another week until we were confident Daniel's associates weren't coming after us. The broken window became just an anecdote. The threatening note went into a file for the trial. Daniel remained in jail, bail denied. His trial date approached. I reviewed my testimony with Roger, making sure every detail was accurate. Emily started dating again, cautiously, carefully, with Linda and me providing sounding boards for her concerns and questions. She was rebuilding her ability to trust, one careful step at a time. Things were getting better. Then I got a call from Marcus Webb. Mr. Hutchins, I thought you should know. Daniel made bail this morning. What? How? His bail was denied. His father posted property, put up his house as collateral. Daniel was released an hour ago. Does Emily know? I don't know. The prosecutor's office should have notified her, but I wanted to call you directly. Thank you. I hung up and immediately called Emily. No answer. I tried again. Voicemail. I called Linda. Daniel's out. Emily's not answering. Maybe she's at work. Maybe. But I had a bad feeling. I grabbed my keys and headed for my car. Where are you going? Linda called after me. To check on Emily. I drove to Emily's apartment. Her car was in the lot. I went up to her door and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Emily, it's Dad. Open up. Nothing. I tried the doorknob. Locked. I was about to break the door down when it opened. Emily stood there, face pale. Dad? What's wrong? Daniel's out of jail. I was worried. I know. The prosecutor called. I'm fine. I've got the locks changed. Building security has his photo. He can't get in. You're sure? I'm sure. Dad, breathe. I'm okay. I realized I'd been holding my breath. I let it out slowly. I'm sorry, I just panicked. It's okay. Come in. I went into her apartment. It was small, but neat. She'd made it her own with photos and plants. It looked like a place where someone was building a life. I'm being careful, Emily said. I have pepper spray. My car is in a well-lit area. I check my surroundings. I'm not taking chances. Good. Dad, I know Daniel's dangerous, but he's also not stupid. If he violates the restraining order, he goes back to jail with no bail option. He won't risk that. You don't know what he'll do. No. But I can't live in fear. I have to trust that the system will work, that he'll stay away, that I can rebuild my life. She was right. But that didn't make me less worried. Promise me you'll call if anything happens. Anything at all. I promise. I left, feeling unsettled. Daniel was out there somewhere, free, with nothing to lose and a lot of anger to fuel him. This wasn't over, not even close.